70 years since we have the system of the European schools to have a mission and vision document. And I think, even if it is not a long document, it has a huge importance also because it already opens a clear picture of how we are seeing the profile of the graduates at a high level, but it has a knowledge. It has also the knowledge of how to apply this knowledge. So you have the practical skills, and also it has specific attitudes towards himself, toward the others, toward the environment. So attitudes that actually behind has values. If we look at the mission and vision, we could already see that for us, for the teachers, for the school managers, what is a bit of a challenge now is to create the path to arrive there and everybody to contribute. Because it's not like before when you have very strict separate subjects and God forbid you, a teacher in, I don't know, physics to present to the students this, to the pupils this formula because it's me, the mathematician, who's supposed to teach this, or I don't know, some specific knowledge. Now, I think with this real competence-based approach, all the subjects have a huge responsibility in contributing, and actually we support each other and we communicate with each other. It's not like separate ivory towers that we manage. So in this moment, our idea of reform is to go in this pathway and actually be able to join our forces in these large working groups and continue to link what we do in one subject to what we do in another subject, what we do in primary with what we do in lower secondary and then secondary, if we can divide in different stages. So actually to ensure this coherence that maybe in the past was not so obvious, but we need so much if we really want to have a competence-based system. And I think we are on the right time because we now started the work on revising the primary syllabi for religion education, and we could be an example of how we can steer this processing, the inspectorate together, in the office together, and the professionals and the practitioners.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much also for making reference to our syllabi, because we are very proud, of course, of the new syllabi for religious education. We believe it's great that they can be implemented. No, I would like to turn to you, Friederike Ladenburger. You are, of course, representing here a little bit the authorities, the religious authorities on this panel, and so I'd like to ask you, what's the position of the religious authorities regarding these proposed reforms, and what is the institutional role of religious authorities in this process of implementing the proposed reforms?
Yeah, thank you very much. I have the pleasure to represent the religious authorities here. That is a big thing. And I would like first to thank Mr. Bordoy and Mr. Fatusnik that we have this possibility of the exchange here. As Mr. Bordoy said, the religious authorities are regularly meeting with Mr. Beckman, Mr. Bordoy, Mr. Fatusnik, and there is a long history of these meetings. We were able to intensify them during the last 2 years, I think. And of course, we speak about a broad scope of questions. We speak about very practical things. Why is an Orthodox teacher not willing to work on the 6th of January? Or why should a Jewish teacher please be not invited to work on a Saturday? So sometimes very practical, and we find good solutions for that. But of course the reforms are a big part of our discussions. And in this sense, I would like to underline two things, so that the religious authorities from Muslim, Jewish, Orthodox, Protestant, Catholic speak with one voice there. So we have the same vision, and we also support the existence of ethics. So we see this as a needed alternative, that parents or a student who does not want to visit religious classes has the possibility of ethics, and that this is an added value, that these classes have an importance. This is also something we advocate for. We advocated for maintaining the existing system. So mandatory religious education from year 1 to 12, one period also in S6, S7. And in this whole discussion, I'm following this since 2011. At that time, I was at the side of the engaged parents as a mother of 3 students of the European schools, and well, since some years I am in a different position, and I see an enormous lack of knowledge. It is not easy to understand the proposed reforms. It is not easy to get informations. The website is sometimes a nightmare for me if I really try to find documents. I'm probably not the only one with this. And so I really think we have to discuss together. And so we advocated for the existing system. You mentioned the reasons. We have to increase religious literacy in these times. We have to give the students a place where purpose and meaning can grow. We have to give them in these really demanding times, also as a little bit more grown-up students in S6, S7, the possibility to develop ethical assessments. We have to see our very specific situation of the European schools with the European history. And the working group proposed 2022, I think, these 5 points you mentioned. And number 5 is stopping ethics classes and to change religious and religious education into an optional course. And the first thing I would just like to ask, because there I see a lack of knowledge, these 5 points you decided, they are decided that they will come. So the fact that this will come is decided by the Board of Governors. The question is only, when will it come? And when will it be implemented into the system? And in which way? Because if you implement number 5 of these points, it is also a question how you implemented number 1, 2, 3, 4, because the system is complex to implement that into the grid. And you see, so this is the first thing I think we all have to know. This is decided, but it is not clear when will it come. And hopefully there is still a possibility to discuss and to contribute to the discussion how it will be implemented. And we, the religious authorities, we have a very specific situation in this discussion. And this is also, we discussed it regularly, and this is not so easy to understand. Because the religious authorities, they have the right to give something like a certificate of aptitude for the teachers, so they are educating the people who can teach religious education. You need a special certificate for that. This has to be recognized by the school. The religious authorities can propose the teachers who have the certificate, and then the school can employ these teachers. But for the rest, the position of the religious authorities is in the whole complex consulting process for the reforms quite weak. We discussed this last year when we met. We asked, can we send experts? Can we send theologians to these working groups? Can we send them? And at the beginning, Mr. Bordoy was quite optimistic, and then we met this year, and then you underlined, and I see it from the legal setting, we do not have an official institutional position in this consulting process. This is the second thing. We have to be very realistic, and so we have to use all the other possibilities to establish a good exchange and to contribute expertise. Because when you establish physics, you ask the physician about the expertise. And when you implement religious education, you have to ask the theologians, and you have to ask the people who studied it, the people who are experts for that. And of course, they are all gathered together in the different churches or in the different religions.
Thank you very, very much, Friederike. I looking around and see if there are questions in the room already, and they are. But before I give you the floor, let me quickly ask the colleagues back there, is the live stream now on, or? Very good, that's a good news.
Still,
in the beginning we had 30 people waiting, now it took some time until the live stream went, but we're still with about 16.
Wonderful, wonderful. A big success already of our event. May I ask then Anne to pass the microphone over to, so that people in the live stream can also hear it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was most interesting. If I may ask a couple of questions. Firstly, it was not clear to me what problem these reforms specifically about the religious and ethics education are intending to solve. And as I was trying to think through how the proposed reforms could be implemented, the idea of integrating ethics into the different subjects sounds, of course, appealing. I was wondering what would be the amount of space dedicated to that within the teaching of those subjects, and what would be the formation of these teachers? Would it be something that could substitute, in fact, for what had been going on in the context of the ethics and the religious education teaching? I say this also as someone who's married to a philosopher, and we've had many discussions about, the differences between, a proper examination of a certain question from those viewpoints versus something that, you look at what could be ethical implications of X, Y, Z in a narrow sense. There's a wholly different quality to what you can explore in a dedicated setting by someone who's been educated and prepared for that. And the second thing that I was reflecting on was something that Mr. Ehle said at the beginning, that these classes, certainly for my son in the religious education stream, also provide a space for a safe space in which to explore big questions with which they are grappling, emotional questions in a guided setting. And I was wondering about the psychology of a teenager who has the choice to take on as an optional course a religious education class versus something else, or have a free period. How many of them are going to make the choice, even if it would be to their benefit, to continue accessing these spaces in that setting? So, thanks.
Thank you very much for that question. Please. So we'll group the questions a little bit and then play them back to you.
Yeah, continuing a bit what was said now, I would like to understand the logic that it was behind the choice of removing ethics at all. For example, I'm one of a teacher, so in a way, of course, I'm talking also about my future. But I see my students. It's 20 years that I'm teaching them. I saw them growing up. It could be possible that I've been also teacher of one of your students too, of your children too. So if the logic is to make some room for other subject, okay? Because it's more or less what I understood. There are plenty of other things that they are going to be implemented. So we make some rooms, and we give the possibility to keep religion as option. The problem is, in a certain way, we are playing like chess. It's a chessmate, because on the formal point of view, religion is not removed. But on the other hand, as it was stated from one of the parents, this finally is going to become a weaker kind of choice, because kids, they are not going to know what it is, maybe, they are not going to know why taking it. So I'm asking myself now, I was wondering, why not removing also physical education? Because in a certain way, if they want to do some sports, they can do it at home. And if they are really interested to play, to have a nice sport, yes, let's go for an optional sport in school. So in the very same logic, what I'm afraid, I'm also a father. I have 3 kids, one of them in S6, so I'm living on my skin what it means, all the reform that they are implemented. And honestly, I'm really afraid of what kind of students we are raising, because we are gently removing things that they are letting them to think in general. We are putting a lot of information in, because there is the problem that the ethics program, the ethics syllabus, if I'm not wrong, it was approved 2 years ago. And it's kind of funny, because I worked also to the religion syllabus, and it's a huge amount of information and work and thing. They're going to be putting in other subjects that they are already saturated of thing. Philosophy too is already a big subject. You're putting other stuff in it, so where is the logic of that? So, just to finish. I'm sorry, I'm Italian, I'm speaking a lot. That's my main problem.
Absolutely, and it's also, it's a subject where questions tend to be longer because they are deep
so
thinking.
My question is, what's the logic in picking up these 2 subjects first? And and in a certain way, is it not that in this way you are just making one of these subjects that is supposed to be there just weaker, so almost impossible to pick up in a certain way?
Thank you very much. We have one more question here, and then I would maybe give the floor back to our panelists. May I ask you to, if you like, to quickly also introduce, I forgot to ask you that before, introduce who you are, if you want to say that, and so that people know, also live streamed, people know a little bit.
Good evening, Arto Makipa, my name. I'm a parent of 3 Finnish children in the European school following Protestant religion. But I only learned about this meeting 2 days ago, so I come as a relative idiot. So I'm going to ask a very much more basic question than the 2 predecessors, because I heard the gentleman speak about S6 and 7, and then about primary for the other gentleman. So for me, it's totally unclear now which grades are concerned about this reform. Is it everything, or is it just S6 and 7? So a very basic question. I would also, perhaps in the next such meeting, give my view, which definitely would support ethics and religion as obligatory subjects for a number of reasons. Because I think that's the one thing other teachers cannot teach, this kind of a moral decision-making capacities. I don't see them being taught by other subjects, and I heard this notion communicated that we're going to put it a bit all over the place. So we're going to ask the history teacher and the math teacher to teach a little bit about ethical reasoning in their classes. Now, in our current teacher training system, I don't see that happening. I'm sorry. I don't see that happening, and I think this is a big mistake, but I'm not going to go further than that because I know far too little to say more, so I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you very much anyway for that. With that, I may play the ball back to our panelists, and then if there are further questions, we can go back. And also, please tell me if in the live stream we have some questions, but we can go to that point later on. So maybe who would like to go first?
Maybe if you want, I will start by the basic. And in our school system, religion is a compulsory subject now from primary school until S7, the baccalaureate year. I mean, like, the reform confirms religion as a compulsory subject from primary to S5. And in S6 and S7, it does not become compulsory, but optional. That's the basic. And now a lot of people was asking about where is the logic of this? And sometimes, it's not only about logic, it's also about different things. And the European school system, you know that is a system based on compromise, it's a system that is made up of the different opinions and the different pedagogical traditions that are in different member states. And at the time where the working group was looking at these changes, one of the things that was looked at is, what is the position of religion in national systems? And you know that in Europe it's very plural, very varied, and there are some countries where religion will stay compulsory until the very end, to countries where religion is not taught at all in the schools. So we always look at the compromise in the European school system. And we have to say, now you are looking at the cherry on the top that you do not have, but you still have the cake. And that was, and I thought that, at least that was my personal opinion, I thought that it was very important to confirm, that at least during a quite important stretch in the education of the pupils, religion could keep the status that today it has. That's one thing. The other thing is about and why ethics and why this putting it here and there. This does not concern religion and ethics. It concerns the whole concept of the reform. I will try to explain it in a very simple way. Before I was talking about the characteristics of our curriculum, and I said it's flexible, it's comprehensive, it's multilingual, and it's competence-based. But on top of that, there is one more characteristic that it has. It is value-driven. Because if we are good at something in the European school system, is in the transmission of European values and in embedding those values in our daily life. And it's also because we have circumstances that are very particular. We have teachers and pupils that come from everywhere, and that sort of generates some dynamics that in other schools cannot happen. The reform made a big change. The big change was all our syllabi are based on the 8 key competencies that were proposed by the European Commission. You know that national member states, when there are policies or suggestions or guidelines from Europe, they can adopt them or not. For us, it's morally binding. So when the 8 key competencies came to light, we said we have to base our curriculum in that. And how does this work? It works in the sense that every teacher or every group of teachers, they have to look at the frameworks of reference of those 8 key competencies, and they have to embed them in their teaching. And Mr. Fartusnik was explaining that teaching in this competence-based system is not only about the knowledge, it is not only about the knowing how to do things, the skills, but it's also about how you do them and how you interact with others. And that's all the ethical and value part. And that, nowadays, it has to be embedded in every subject. during 3 years, we have been giving teachers a lot of information and training. The Pedagogical Development Unit has a wonderful site. They have sort of helplines, and teachers in the schools, they have been given extra time to come together and to look at the syllabus of their subject and see how they can embed the different competencies from the different frameworks in their teaching. And I think that a lot has been, a lot of progress has been done in this area. So I'm not particularly afraid. I mean, like, will we lose quality? Will we lose focus on values? I'm not so worried about that. First, because we are assuring a very solid foundation from primary to S5, and then we are still giving the option. And I want to explain to you that it is not, if I don't have religion, I get one extra free period. It's not that. Because if you don't have religion, you will need to take another subject to count towards your minimum number of hours. So that's it. So it's not going to be, if we don't want to do religion, we will be playing in the courtyard. No, it's not that how it will work.
Thank you.
I just wanted to, one thing, I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but you refer to the fact that in the ethics syllabi, there are a lot of information that are difficult to be transferred to other subjects. I think you touched an important thing if we are talking about the future, and especially with ethics, because I strongly believe that the future of our system and an important principle is that we try to move from teaching our pupils what to think to a reality where we are teaching them how to think. And I think this is a small difference verbally, but actually it makes a lot of difference in practice. And it's not, we should at one point limit a bit the quantity of the information and of the knowledge we want to pass in order to allow enough time to use this knowledge as a tool, not only as an end in itself, to really help our students to develop in many areas, including the areas related to values. So maybe we should at one point finish the discussion about how our syllabi look like. So the discussion about the formal part of the teaching and learning, and maybe, as it was suggested, look a bit more how we transform all these things in reality in our classrooms. And we are happy to announce you that recently we start to develop an important tool. It's an online platform that, in our opinion, it will be an important way of bringing community of teachers together, not only by separate subject, but also across with some let's say cross-curricular subjects. And also it's a place where we are already starting to develop new training courses. So really the teachers to find there something that is really appealing and relevant for their everyday teaching, in addition to what it was before.
No, thank you. Federica.
Yeah, well, it's probably not a surprise that I do not share the perspective of Mr. Bordoy. What is the cherry on the cake and what is the cake? So that we still have the cake, but the cherry is gone, because no mandatory religious education for S6 and S7 and no ethics at all. I just see it the other way around. I think religious education, and as I said, I include ethics for the parents or the students who do not want to make a choice for religious education. This is really a long value we have in Europe, in the whole system, in the whole European continent is based on this. And so I think it is something very specific. And the elderly students, so in S6 and S7, when they are in a very specific point in their life to make decisions, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? What do I want to study? I don't know. So many decisions, demanding decisions in these difficult times. And of course there we see an added value that the system by itself gives a clear and strong testimony. There is no choice for that. This is part of our comprehensive education. And well, we spoke about that already also in detail. The European Parliament saw it in the same way. There was this famous report evaluating the European schools. They have to do that every 10 years, I think, or they do it. And well, of course, we were happy. We found the sentence there that the European schools should maintain the existing system of religious and ethical education. Well, we learned tonight again, it will not be for the long-term future like that. And so for this, we really need a strong discussion together. You mentioned the inspector for religious. We are also in close contact with him. We are very thankful for all this expertise, because we need this. We need the experts from the theological background. And a small remark from my side for this ethical-driven perspective of other educational points taught in the European schools. This for me is the cherry on the top. So this is something which of course should be included into other educational courses, and I think religion taught as itself and ethics gives the tools and provides a toolbox the young generation needs for the future.
Thank you very much. I see some words here, but I think there's a question online, and I'd like to privilege that first, please.
There are right now 21 persons following online, and there is a question following Etterbeek's explanation. It says, why do we need to remove the option of religion from S6 and S7? Why don't we submit it for a parent's vote?
To a parent's vote, whether it's obligatory, it remains obligatory, or it will be optional. Very democratic suggestion. Yes, please. Maybe ladies first. The lady here in the second row.
Thank you.
If you could say again quickly who you are. Maybe
yes, I'm a mother of 3 girls in EEB2. One of them is a student now and went through ethics class in primary and religion class in secondary. And the other one is following the same path and is now in secondary. So I can not only testimony as a parent, but also pass the thoughts of a student actually who passed through the system and has her views as well. So first of all, in my opinion, I would like to also unfortunately not agree with the speakers here that actually spreading of the substance of ethics and religion throughout other systems, courses can substitute the real subject. And I will explain why, because by doing that, first of all, I don't think that religion can be spread at all, and I understand it will remain as an optional subject for a choice. But here I would like to echo some previous speakers saying that a teenager in S6, S7 is finding himself in a super competitive environment where they are gaining their points for the future university. If now someone will be choosing a substance-based subject over religion, and they will be faced with a choice either to take religion or not, those of them who really care about their prospects for the university most likely either will not choose it or will go for 36 points. And As a mother of someone who had 35 in secondary, I can assure you it's really tough. In S6 and S7, they are at the age of burnout, many of them. Those who take it seriously, they are, with all the tests, with all the B tests, whatever, exams, and so on. And in my opinion, that class of, be it ethics or religion, is really the safe space for them during the day to think in a guided manner, without scrolling their screens, without being, let's say, subjected to decisions from outside world, but rather really in a guided manner to take space to think about things that matter. When ethics will become part of other subjects, I'm sure it will disappear. It will become one of 8 competencies. There you're right, but ethics is not only the competencies, and religion moreover. And I can testimony as a mother of someone who has done it, that they really privileged, that they felt privileged of having like this time where they could really benefit from a teacher who knows and really can sit and think and find a calm moment. And here I would also like to agree with the speaker before. If we are taking this opportunity from the kids, why are we not taking the sport? To me, same thing. It's just physical versus moral and ethical education. But now to the question. And that again comes very well to what we just heard online. I do not recall any consultation with the parents, any survey, anything about the reform. I've heard about the involvement of the parents, but who were the parents involved into the working group discussions, and whether there was any feedback and any widespread consultation on the matter with the parents. Not only about the religion versus ethics, also about other things, because I've heard about the disappearing of biology. And now I understand what I heard over the summer, that one of the friends' children was fighting to get the place in the university because they cannot prove that they had biology on their last year's list, because it just disappeared in this mixed subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there's one more in the back.
Teaching many years the course of Orthodox religion in the European school, 13 years now, but also representing the Orthodox Church in the Secretary General in EU institutions. I listen carefully the reactions of parents, and the reactions are strong. And if I could summarize this, who decided that STEM courses are more important than to learn about the values for what we stand for, and about religious and spiritual and ethical decision making, especially as it was said during this time of S6 and S7, because all the curriculum is based to prepare them to discuss important issues about their future lives in these 2 years. So I don't know who decided for us, for the parents, that STEM is more important than to learn about these important issues that, as we live in multicultural, multi-religious society. And I understand what happened, and I understand what Mr. Bordeaux said. The trend a few years ago is different than what is now. And I understand also the initiative of the working group. I mean, it's not surprising. But Bulgaria, a few weeks ago, voted for compulsory teaching of religion course. And the most surprising thing is our neighbor, Netherlands, I cannot think more liberal country in Europe, they decided to include to their curriculum religious education and religious courses in all levels of their educational system.
Thank you very much. Is there one more online? Okay, so we take maybe, if it's very short, please. It's okay?
In fact, it's not a question, it's an opinion saying that absolutely agree with the speaker. Students at this age, referring to E6, S6 and S7, really benefit from the space to think about moral topics.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are all conscious of time because we were delayed, of course, because of technical difficulties. And this is why I'd like to ask the panelists to, of course, answer the questions maybe briefly, but correctly, but then also maybe add a sentence or two of your main takeaway of this discussion today. And may I maybe start with you this time so that we don't always start with Mr. Bordoy, but we follow the tradition of ladies first also in this context.
I just whispered to Mr. Bordoy, so he will explain a little bit about the consultation process the European schools have to go through, and there is, of course, a contribution from the parent side, Inter-Parents Association, and well, but you will explain that. So yeah, from my side, in Europe we are united in diversity, and for this I think you have to know the diversity. And this is, for me, a comprehensive education of the young European generation cannot be without a strong education on religion, on the personal beliefs. I have to know what my Jewish neighbor thinks. I have to be in solidarity when a Muslim classmate gets into trouble in a school trip because there's pork meat on the table, and I have to learn what the Christian confessions are teaching about human dignity, because the whole European project is built on that. So yeah, united in diversity, for me a strong pillar for this has to be a religious education for the young generation. And of course, and I underlined it several times this evening, if due to whatever reason someone does not want to have that, then there's an ethics course. But this is more than the ethical perspective we have, of course, also include into EU citizenship programs and things like that.
Thank you very much, and thank you also very much for being so brief. Please.
As some people was asking about the consultation, decision-making process, etc., etc. So I will explain. I mean, like normally for technical issues, we do not do sort of consultation processes that reach everybody, because if we did that for every single thing, that would not be manageable. In any case, there is always a good consultation process through the elected members of each constituency. So in the European school systems we have a superstructure that is called Inter-Parents, and Inter-Parents is the representatives of all the parents' associations of all the different schools. And they are present in most working groups, like for example in the reform working groups they are present. Then we have a second superstructure that is called COSOP, which is the group of the pupils, and they are also in some working groups, and particularly in this working group of reform they were present. And then you need to understand that I really coincide with most of the opinions that have been expressed here about the importance of religious education in our school system and in the European school system. But the Office of the Secretary General is not a decision-making power. I mean, like the decision-making power, it's first in a first place for pedagogical issues in the joint board of inspectors, which is the education inspectors of all the member states, and they are the driving force of pedagogy. All the reforms, they come from their discussions in the first place. Then those proposals are elevated to what we call the Joint Teaching Committee. And in the Joint Teaching Committee, you find all the inspectors representing the member states, plus the parents, plus the European Commission, the pupils, some representatives of institutions that have a relevance in the system, like the WIPO, the EPO, etc., etc., the ancillary staff. So, I mean, like, everybody is there. And then once a proposal passes this group, it goes to the budgetary committee to see if there is any budget implication. And finally, when it passes the budgetary committee, it goes to the board of governors, who are the representatives also of the commission and the different institutions and the member states. And they are the ones that have the votes. The other members, I mean, like, do not have a vote, like the parents, the directors, the ancillary staff, the pupils, etc. But they have a voice. They can voice this. So basically, I wanted to say only just, I mean, like, I think I have explained about the decision-making process and the consultation. The other thing I wanted to say is that I'm not a person of guessing. You know, like, I like more to have data and to have evidence. And you are installed here in the assumption that with this change, I mean, like, the kids will prefer not to choose religion and rather do something different. Well, I mean, like, we will see what happens in the next years. But my takeaway is I have faith in our pupils.
Okay, thank you very much. And maybe a word from you. Sorry that we are now pressed in time, but...
No, I also have faith, and I think what I learned from this discussion is that actually everybody wants to see these subjects, both religion and ethics, as being meaningful, as being not just time spent to tick a box, but to have an impact. And I'm confident that we will reach the point when we sit together, not in different faiths, but we sit together as a wider group and work on as we have now a harmonized L1 for language first curriculum, to have a harmonized religion curriculum, then with parts that are bringing the specificity of each faith. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very, very much. I not going to summarize the discussion, but I'm tempted to use my privilege as the moderator also to say one sentence of opinion. I think what is very important to remember is that, you know, we are operating in a cross-cultural environment, and people have very different backgrounds and very different approaches to these questions, and it is important to respect them. And so as a representative of the Protestant parents, I can tell you that there are large numbers of parents that want their kids to have this education and to have it obligatory to the end. They want it. They expect it from a school which they like to trust in. So, yes, there are different views, but this is one view. In any event, I'd like to really very much thank our panelists for coming today here and telling us all these important points. I would very much like to thank all the participants here in the audience and also online, for those that are still with us. Courageous people are still with us. And I would, of course, very much like to thank our co-hosts, the Chapel for Europe and the Kommesse for having organized this event tonight. I thank you very much. And with that, I close this, and I think we'll have a little verre d'amitié, if I'm well informed, downstairs. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Anytime.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really helpful. Perfect. Yes. Spend my summer holidays in there.
Really? When did you say this? I want to
I don't want to see you.
just the end of what happens across the mountains?
No, we came from Hungary. Exactly, and then we visited one of the former Siebenbürgen cities, but only the
And they will say, but
no,